It's not about what you have. It's about who you have. It's not about where you live. It's about how you live. And it's not about what you do. It's about why you do it. Welcome to the Momentasize Podcast. Today, I've got a really, really special guest for us. It's a guest that if you want to know anything about commercial real estate, you have to listen to this episode. This man has touched everything from short-term vacation rentals, office, storage, multifamily. He's invested and sold over 6,000 units. Today, he's holding 3,000 units, and we break down a ton of great nuggets and how it happens, including a crazy story of one asset that they had, which was worth $100 million. Then there was a horror story that happened. It got mismanaged. It got all the way down to a value of $30 million. And he breaks down what happened and how they solved it. If you guys are interested in learning about commercial real estate and learning from a man who has 3,000 units, you have to listen to this podcast. Without further ado, please help me welcome Tim Bratz to the podcast. Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years have been crazy, right? Just in the news, things have been crazy. A lot of changes have been happening. But Tim Bratz, you've got a ton of commercial assets. Tell us what's happening in the commercial space right now.
Oh, man. Well, so here's the thing. When you take a step back and you look at what happened with housing prices on residential housing from 2007 to 2009 during the great financial collapse, the Great Recession, house prices on the residential side of things were reduced by about 29% on average across the country. And you saw it on all the news. It was a global crisis, massive, massive issue because a lot of people own homes and a lot of people were affected by that. What people aren't talking about is that exact same thing happened from 22 to 24 for the past 2 years in the commercial real estate realm. Except not as many people own commercial real estate. But depending on the asset class that you're in, because of interest rates, insurance costs, cost of labor, cost of material, cost of energy, all those things have affected the net operating income of all these commercial real estate asset classes. You've seen commercial assets reduce in value from somewhere between 20 to 35% over the past 2 years. And so, dude, it's been a bloodbath. And there's a lot of people who have moved out of the space. And the people who are still in the space, they're going to be able to dominate everything because guess what? It's coming back in full force, stronger than it's ever been for the second part of this decade.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's super exciting. And like anything, right? When something goes through a bloodbath, you'll see the people who weren't really in it for the right reasons anyways, they leave, they go do something else. It's happening both in commercial real estate. It's happening, with like that broker you knew, that broker that was a bartender that turned broker because everything was good and now they're back to bartender. It's happening across the board. When things get difficult, right? It shakes out the weak. Just to give the listeners an idea from a commercial side, tell us a little bit about your portfolio and just your history.
Yeah, man. So I've been in real estate since 2005, been investing since 2009, bought my first commercial property, a small apartment in 2012. And I've, grown the portfolio. I've done pretty much everything when it comes to real estate. Started out in residential, moved up into multifamily, started doing big multifamily. But I've also done self-storage facilities. I've done a lot of new development, new construction. I have retail, I have office, I have triple net properties. So I've done pretty much every asset class, Airbnb, short-term rentals, all that stuff. And I've acquired over 6,000 rentals for my own personal portfolio. I've sold off a big chunk of those. I got a few really cool opportunities that I'm working on right now that are 9 and 10 figure opportunities. And so I'm selling off a chunk of my portfolio. But right now I'm at about 3,000 doors that I currently own that I'm the primary owner of.
I love it. And that's multifamily doors specifically, or what's that mix look like?
About 90% of my portfolio is multifamily. So I do have some office buildings. I do have some short-term rentals and some like very unique other properties, some retail, mixed use, that kind of stuff. But 90% of my portfolio is multifamily, either apartment buildings or townhomes.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, you've touched all the commercial side of it. Why do you hold most of it in multifamily? I mean, you've touched self-storage, you've touched it all. Why did you decide to hold a majority of your portfolio in multifamily?
Yeah, man, I think that's a good question. Here's what people don't realize. They see real estate and they think real estate is one industry. You got to learn one thing. Real estate has every asset class. Dude, you've heard of the 10,000 hour rule. In order to become an expert at anything, you got to spend 10,000 hours doing that. If you spend 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, that means it's going to take you at least 5 years to become an expert at anything. And every asset class.
And that means you got to be doing it good too. You can't just be random hours. It has to be quality hours. So
quality full time, dude.
Yeah.
And so, there's things that transcend asset class, like raising money and those things. But like underwriting is specific to different asset classes. Operations is very specific to depending on which asset class you're in. So, we've done it all. I'm not a self-storage guy. I think self-storage kind of got overbuilt. I think it's good for people who develop self-storage and then sell it, because you can sell it on a cap rate basis, but it costs a third of the price to build than multifamily does. So like you can make some big pops if you're a developer in that side of things. So I think flex office space, warehouse space is great if you're a developer.
Storage is long. It takes longer to absorb though, right? So it's one of those, yes, it absorbs a little bit longer, but once they're in, they're in. So there's, like you said, from a development game, it's no toilets, nothing like that to deal with.
No, it's amazing from that standpoint. And I love it if there was a limit on number of units that could be built per city or per capita. The issue is you're going to have some bonehead that doesn't do some sort of absorption study, and they overbuild in a certain community, or they start converting offices into storage or doing all these things that increases the amount of supply in self-storage. And self-storage only has a certain number of people, a certain percentage of the population utilize self-storage. And so I'm not worried about me or my team or our ability to operate self-storage. But the issue is, it's not like an apartment. If you own an apartment and I own an apartment and I don't take care of my apartment and you do, all my tenants are going over to you. You're going to be 100% occupied and I'm going to drop down to 60%, right?
Yep.
Versus self-storage, people don't really care. As long as there's somewhere to put their stuff, it cannibalizes the industry when there's too much supply. So you're dropped down to 75, 80% occupancy. You can never get above that. And I do the exact same thing. So that I'm worried about bonehead developers who don't look at that on the self-storage side. So that's the only thing on self-storage. I do like flex. I do like warehouse. I think that's going to be a big play. Dude, I see deals all over the place on offices. And I know they say offices are going away, but dude, the feds just told people to come back to offices. I'm looking for an office right now to buy because I don't like working from home with a team. There's distractions and all that. So I think it's going to come back, and I think you can buy some really good deals on that.
I agree. I think I've been saying office is coming back because everybody thought we're specifically in a destination town where all of a sudden now we had this influx of remote workers, people that could come from their city job in Portland, Seattle, California, and they could now be living in bed. And I said, hey, this isn't going to last. Like, we have to protect against, we can't just hold that trend, because I don't think that that's going to be a trend that'll always be here. I think you're going to see productivity drop. You're going to see culture drop. And I think that especially as these office buildings, because they've been vacant, they're getting repriced, and you're going to have people come back in them. So I couldn't agree more with you on that. And here in our small town, that was one of the trends that everyone's like, hey, this is here to stay. And I was like, no, we got to protect against that. I do not actually agree. I think just like you're seeing now, we're on the back end of that cycle. People are going to call you back to the office. They're going to want the culture. They're going to want the productivity. And so I agree with you. Have you looked at doing any office conversions? Have you done any of those? It's been a pretty big trend.
They're just too expensive and it takes too much time. I built my career doing heavy value add, repositioning very distressed assets, and literally, putting $20,000, $30,000 per unit into these apartment complexes that I'm buying for $20,000 or $30,000 a unit back in 2015, 16, 17. And so doing massive unit turns and value add repositionings. And one of the things I realized, and dude, I developed too, but I'm not I never liked flipping houses. The reason I didn't is because it didn't have any cash flow while I was flipping it, and I was limited to who I could sell it to. And dude, I'm not the guy who's going to figure out what paint to put on the wall or what countertop to use or backsplash. And I didn't like the emotional aspect of that. But more importantly, I didn't like the carrying cost and the holding cost and waiting for a big pop. And I don't like that in building new homes or building apartment buildings. And I don't like it in these heavy value add projects anymore. For where it worked really well for me, got me to an multiple eight figure net worth. But for where I am today and where I want to continue to go, it's easier for me to just go and strike a deal with those developers, with those builders, and say, hey, you build it. Call me as soon as you hit certificate of occupancy. I'll take over. I'll start managing it. I'll buy it from you and handle it for the rest of the time. But I've seen too many hiccups in the construction industry where it's just, dude, I think about this one development that I have down in Georgia. I'm building 165 townhomes. It's been 5 years that we've been developing these things. and just issues with contractors, issues with the town, issues with the utility companies. All these things started popping up. And I'm like, how many other deals could I have done if I just bought stabilized turnkey properties and bumped up the rents every year for the next 5 years and created the same upside that I could have done with this new construction? Because guess what? Because my holding costs, I'm into it for a retail price now. And so for me, and what works for me right now at this stage in my career, it's more about I'm buying newer properties in my own backyard. I'm not going in 12 different states anymore. I'm really sticking to the Carolinas and Ohio, which is where I'm from and where my team lives. Yep. Not because they're better markets, just because it's what we know, dude. We know the management companies. We know the title companies. We know the management or the attorneys, the insurance. All that stuff is very predictable for us. And every new market you go into, you got to learn all the new laws. You got to learn the players. You got to figure out how the eviction courts work and all that stuff. So, we're really, really focused on just those markets, newer properties, not necessarily turnkey, but built, certificate of occupancy, like ready to go, rent ready is what I would call it. And so we're doing a lot with triple net lease now, and we're doing a lot with multifamily, just because those are the two things that we really, really know and what we're known for. So if I go take a hotel to my investors, dude, they're going to be like, what the hell do you know about hotels? Yeah. And although I have Airbnbs, that's a new asset class. Like I'm going to go through learning curves. It's going to cost me time. It's going to cost me money. And I don't need to. There's plenty of opportunity in multifamily and triple net lease for me.
Yeah. 100%. What's your ideal buy box? I mean, it sounds like it's got to be in the Carolinas or Ohio where you're from. What's your ideal buy box right now? What are you looking for? What are you hunting for?
Yeah, man. So, what's funny is based on all the issues that we've gone through over the past couple of years, I've had to take properties back from operating partners that I signed loans for and, had to raise more money, had to do more work, move my team around the country in order to reposition these assets. And I sat back a little over a year ago and I'm like, dude, what do I like doing? What do I not like doing? What's making me money? What's not making me money? And I looked at the most successful people in the country who I look up to in the real estate game, people who with billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar portfolios and have the biggest balance sheets, the biggest net worths, the most cash on hand. And it seemed like the best lifestyle. And I noticed that there were 5 things that all of them hit on. And so number 1 was they either built new or they bought new properties, right?
Yep.
So they just got nice properties. Number 2, good areas, A class, B class areas. They weren't in the hood. They weren't in war zones. They weren't even in necessarily the transitional areas. They had stuff in good areas. They had good debt in place. They put long-term fixed rate debt in place where there was no variability. There was no question mark. They had very predictable debt service, right? And didn't skew them with interest rates change or anything like that. Number 4, they in-house managed. They did not rely on third-party property management. If you want to get me really fired up, dude, talk about third-party property management, how much they dropped the ball. We can go down a dark hole there. But we've completely built out and have become vertically integrated where we self-manage everything now. And then the 5th thing is they hold forever. They look to never sell. They hold it. They just refinance every 10 years, take millions of dollars of tax-free money off the table. They don't pay any taxes on it. They put it in their pocket. They reinvest it in the building. They go and buy other stuff, more assets, and they never, ever, ever sell. That's how long-term wealth is built. And so those 5 categories are my buy box in Ohio and South Carolina and North Carolina. And then what else? Probably some. Our sweet spot's like $10 to $30 million. That yep. price point, and apartments and triple net worth or triple net lease.
Yeah, a little bit too big. It's too big for the small guys. A little bit too small for the really big guys. And you're just right in the middle market there, where you can really do really well, where you can add a ton of value because you've been in it. You've transacted on 6,000 units now. You know them in and out. You know your team's going to do the operating side of it, which is one of the most important things, right? Sure, you can buy a great asset, but if it is not being operated the right way, it's going to be a big problem. I've got 2 questions for you on that. So, did you use third parties when you first got started? And then give us some horror stories that happened, and what was it that made you finally say, "Hey, no, I'm taking this in house"?
Yeah, man. Yeah, lots of horror stories, right? Like, so here's the
thing. Give me the best horror stories, man. I want them all. I want the good stuff.
Dude, I got some juicy ones. All right. So here's the thing. It is a math equation when you're first building your portfolio of what does it take in order to bring management in-house? Because at first it doesn't make sense. If you only own 10 units, dude, that's only going to distract you. You need to be focused on growing the portfolio. And the things that make money are finding deals and raising capital. That's what you as the CEO should be focused on. So for me, that's the highest and best use of my time and where I can best serve my team. And so we've been able to go out and where was I going with this? You asked about property management. And
yeah, we're talking about terrible. I asked you to give me some juicy deals on originally third party was managing for you, and then you brought it in house. And I think where you were going is like it's the same thing. It's a question mark of you can't bring it in house initially until you hit a certain tipping point from scale, right? It's a scale thing. So what is that scale? Is it 100 units for you? Is it 200? Is it 1,000? When do you think you hit that tipping point where you can start to justify bringing the management in house?
Dude, so the beauty of business is it's a math equation. Everything can be done by numbers. And so it doesn't necessarily matter of unit count. It matters of what is the rental rate? What is the gross amount of rents that you can bring in? And what are you paying a management company in that percentage of a fee? So like I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Let's say the management fee is 8% there. Yep. If you've got an average rent of $1,000 a month times 12 months a year times 50 doors. Yep. That's $600,000 times 8% is $48,000.
Yeah, you're working towards a salary. You're working backwards towards your team.
And so if depending on your market, if you could hire a full-time manager for $50,000 or $60,000 a year, you probably need somewhere between 50 to 75 units if your average rent's around $1,000 a month. Now, I don't know what it's like in Bend, Oregon, but maybe you guys have rents of $2,000 a month. So maybe you only need 40 doors or 35 doors in order to hit that number for it to make sense and start bringing it in-house. But I will say it's one of those things, if you are serious about this business, then you need to play serious and have the intent of eventually bringing that in-house, because every major player in real estate has their own in-house property management team.
100%. And what Tim's saying, just to recap on that, he's saying doors don't matter. It's not a door count. You got to look at the numbers from a wage side. So, if you can pay somebody $48,000 to manage it better, and now they can have their full attention. Or if you hire a third party manager, they've got your property plus 20 other properties that they're trying to manage, right? Well, and you're still paying them that fee. So if you can replace them, have somebody that's just focused on that and probably do a couple other things for you, boom, it starts to make sense. So it's really good to think about it not as a door count. It's not when I get to 100 doors. It's when my math makes sense from a wage side. Come on, got to give me the horror story though. What was the worst horror story you got? Come on.
Yeah, man. So it's going to take a minute, but it's
it's worth it. We'll wait.
All right, dude. So I was at, what was I at? Probably 4,100, 4,200 doors back in early 21. And somebody came to me and said, "Hey, dude, will you sponsor this loan on a 600 unit apartment complex that I want to buy?" And I said, "Yeah, hell yeah. I want this deal. That's going to be $100 million deal." Now, here's the thing. When you go in 4,000 doors or 4,200 doors and you get to 4,800 doors, there's zero change in your quality of life. You know what I'm talking about? Like there's nothing you can't afford if you own 4,000 doors that you can now afford if you own 4,800 doors, right? There's no change in your quality of life.
It didn't change your lifestyle.
In a positive way, right? But what it can do is it can change your life in a negative way if that deal goes sideways. I didn't have the need to do this deal, but I did it because of essentially ego. And so I sponsored a loan passively because I had the balance sheet and the experience. Another guy was the money guy. Another guy was the operating partner. A year and a half goes by, and we find out almost 2 years later, let's call it a year and a half later, late 22, that the management company was placing people because they were getting bonus based on tenant placement, but not qualified tenant placement, not
just commissions, just
making rips for putting people, putting
they're just getting placement.
And so we found out that they were overriding failed background checks and putting people in anyways. We found out that they were making up income to qualify people to put them in. We also found out that they were keeping security deposits and placing people into units and not putting them on the rent roll and collecting all the cash. And then they tried to cover it up for over 6 months. And this was done on the site level, on the regional level, and potentially at a corporate level too. And so we had, it took about 6 months to figure out what was going on. Where's all the cash going? What's happening? Because all the lease up happened. And then they started asking us for money. And then they were giving us fake financials and falsified financials in order to try to cover their tracks and delay in order to fix things. I think corporate figured it out, was trying to fix it before we found out about it. And then we found out about it. And so the two partners that I had, the two operating partners, the other general partners, right? One was a money guy, one was the operations. The operations guy, pretty good guy, but didn't have a team, didn't have resources, never really built the muscle of knowledge and skill sets and resourcefulness in order to be able to go out and raise capital and reposition a deal this big in order to then turn it around. The other guy, just a piece of shit of a human being, right? And just, he had access to money and wasn't willing to put more money in. He's like, let all the investors lose their cash. I don't care. I'm walking away from this thing. And so I look at this thing and like, it's not worth what the loan amount is. And even though it was a non-recourse loan, at the end of the day, if a lender loses that much money, they're coming after somebody to try to get the cash. And even if I hand the keys back, cash for keys, I have to then check a box on every new loan that I get for the rest of my career saying I handed the keys back on a deal. And so I couldn't take the reputational risk either with the lenders or with the investors that were in. And so I rolled up my sleeves. I moved 2 executives from my team to the site in Texas. Executives, like high level people. And they lived on site for over a year. We tabled every other acquisition in 2023. We did not buy anything else. Put our entire business on pause. I raised over $10 million. It has since accumulated almost $20 million of additional cash that we've had to put into this deal. I moved those guys out of the way. We took a property that was, dude, when we took it over in January, February of 23. So this is less than 2 years ago.
Yeah, this just happened. This
is still a fresh wound. I'm preaching from open wounds right now. I'm going to bleed all over you guys. All right. We were at 30% economic occupancy, 30%, dude, on a $100 million property. Not only that, the news stations were at the property doing news stations on it. We were like going viral on social media. It was all 1-star reviews. There was zero maintenance being handled at the property. It's not just the unqualified 200 tenants that they put in that were unqualified, but it was, they brought all the riffraff, all the drugs, all the crime, all the partying, all the issues, all the breaking through the fences and all the crazy stuff that happens with that. And it moves all the good people out. Right.
Yeah.
And so you're left with this absolutely decimated property. That's a pretty decent, it's a B-class property in an A-class area, right? It's surrounded by $700,000 houses. And we found ourselves in a position where, dude, everything had to change. So I moved my team there. There's bricks going through there. Like my one executive had his truck window shattered and all of his stuff stolen out of there within the first month. We hired a security firm. The security guard, first day on site, got knocked out with a brick to the back of the head. First day. Police were there twice a day, every single day. All 1-star reviews, multiple 7 figures in aged payables, 7 figures in delinquent rents. Again, 30% economic occupancy at this property. We go in, dude, within 6 months, we turned it all around. We got all the problematic tenants out of there. We took care of all the deferred maintenance. We started leasing out to qualified people. We restaffed the property. We brought in new third-party management because we just didn't have the whole team in order to do all that stuff. So I found a local company to come in and help us reposition this thing. But again, I got 2 executives on staff. We're on calls twice a week, every single week with the corporate of my team and going through all the things, which is to get rid of the problems, turn units, get them leased up, and everything takes care of itself, right? You show the positive momentum and everything starts happening in a good way. And so, but it was brutal. We had to deal with lenders and they're breathing down our neck because they don't want to lose money. And so they're making all these threats that we're going to come after you personally if you don't reposition this, even though I'm saving their ass from tens of millions of dollars of losses. And within 6 months, by end of summer of 2023, dude, we had all 5-star reviews from all the tenants. The delinquency went from 7 figures down to less than 25 grand, which is like unbelievable for that size
Huge.
of the property. The police called us, said, hey, why come we're not getting phone calls? We're here twice a day usually. We haven't been here in 2 or 3 months. Like, what's going on? They thought something was happening. The city saw such an improvement in the property, and the community saw such an improvement in the property, and the news saw such an improvement in the property that they gave us free grant money to make additional improvements at the property. We took age payables from $3.5 million down to 0. Everything's been paid current ever since. And we've been able to totally reposition this property, taking it from, we got offers in like the mid 30 million range, 35 million in early 23 when we first took it over, to today we're going through a refinance. It should appraise for somewhere between 100 to 110 million dollars.
Wow.
In 18 months, dude, creating 70 plus million dollars out of a single deal, just from running it the right way. And so I know a lot of people are talking about how bad the market is and how bad interest rates are and how bad insurance is. Dude, what I've seen evaporate more net worth than anything else is horrible operations. And so if you have your operations dialed in, dude, it's cool to raise money and find deals, and that gets deals done. It acquires the deal, but the real work starts once you have the deal, and you really need to have your operations dialed in.
Yeah, I love it. That is a crazy story. Congrats on being able to get in there, rolling up your sleeves, not giving up, not taking no for an answer. Where focus goes, energy flows, right? And so, like you said, once you guys, although the goal wasn't, the 600 units didn't change your life from a positive side, but it definitely made you guys really focus in, put a halt on your business. And I'm sure there was just a ton of lessons within it, but it's great to be on the other side of that. We definitely ourselves, we've got much smaller portfolio, but we definitely see and feel we're in the development game. On the deal you have going on, I think you hired the wrong guys to bring that deal to life, because 5 years is way too long. That's way too long. But once we developed, we have an 84 unit. We develop it. It worked out great. Our timelines were really good. What happened was we had good timelines. We rented up nicely. We just hit 93% occupancy, awesome. 95% occupancy. We're super happy with that. But then it does become a game of, okay, how well can we now manage this? And that's all the way down to, the way that these commercial properties are valued. And you know this very well, but from a listener side, the way that these properties get valued and why Tim was able to take that property from 30 million to over 100 million is because they're valued off something called the net operating income. Net operating income and a cap rate. Those two things together give you the value of the property. And the net operating income is just simply gross rents. So all the rents you get, rents for the units, pet rents, late fee rents, storage rents, whatever other rents you have, minus all your expenses. And what Tim is really saying is, sure, you got to market, you got to place people in the units, you got to build nice units, but then how you deal with the day-to-day operations, the different third-party contractors that you bring on for either snow removal, cleaning, landscaping, for maintenance, all of the above, they matter a lot. And one of the key things to think about and use is to set rules in place. Like we're doing it right now every year when there's certain third-party contracts to mow the lawn, or even our property manager, because we do have a third-party property manager, we're shopping them out. So we are specifically shopping them out and trying to make sure that, sure, we want it to be a win-win, but if somebody is charging us 5.5% to manage the property, and we can negotiate down to 5%. It doesn't seem like that much, 0.5%, but when it's 20, 30 grand across the year, you divide that by a cap rate, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of value. So that's what Tim's talking about when he's saying that internally his team really focuses in on renting those. It's because it makes a huge difference, either increasing rents by $10, $20, $30 at scale makes a big difference, but also decreasing your expenses by even 1 or 2% makes a big, big difference on the value of your property.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it is a math equation, right? And you can very easily show, hey, if you're able to bump rents by $30 a month times 12 months, right? Times on that, what size is that building? 85 units?
84 units. Yeah, 84 units.
84 units. Dude, that's an extra $30,000 a year. And what's your cap rate in your area? It's 6% right now?
Yeah. We'll call it 6%, probably 5.5% where we're at. We're in Oregon, dude, but yeah.
You can bump your rents by $30 per unit per month. Dude, it increases your property value by $500,000, by $500,000 for doing something that's so seemingly inconsequential, right? That's like when I see somebody who's owned a property for a long time. They haven't raised rents in 5 or 6 years. They pay on. It's like, dude, you're literally missing out on not only tens of thousands of dollars of annual revenue and net income, but dude, every dollar multiplies by about $15 to $17 of value, right? So every dollar of savings or increase of the net operating income increases the property value by $15. So it's a short-term win and it's a long-term win as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm sure everybody, you're listening, oh, great, raise the rents by $30. Not that easy to do. But there's also different ways to look at it, right? You have to get creative. So one of the ways originally, well, I'll give you just an example. We had originally the property managers, we weren't paying close enough attention. They said, hey, $25 in pet rent. And then I just started to think about that more. One, pets, the wear and tear is super hard on it, and 25 is just a little bit too low in my opinion. So even we just bumped that to 45. So $20 swing. Well, like Tim showed you, that's a big swing. Even 10,000, I know 30,000 is a $500,000 ads, but 10,000 is, very similarly, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's really focusing in on those things if you want to take this business serious, you have to study the best. That's why I like what you said from a buy box side. You studied the best people, the people where you wanted to go, the billionaires and what they were doing. And then you just mirrored your buy box off of that. So I love that. I think it's great advice. And I really, really like it. Tim, was there ever a time in the business when you were getting it started, because you've built a really, really impressive portfolio, and I know you have a mastermind as well, and an education platform, but was there ever a time that you were thinking to yourself, like, none of this is going to work? What am I doing? Was there ever a struggle where you thought about quitting? Can you tell us about that?
Dude, I mean, you're an entrepreneur, right? I had all those feelings this morning before I had coffee, right? Like, this is stuff that happened. Like, here's what I found.
Yeah.
Here's what I found. If you're in business for the long term and you're on the emotional roller coaster of entrepreneurship, right? You got these crazy highs, you got these dark lows. You think the world's crumbling in on you when you're on low, right? And at high, you're like, it's awesome, but at the same time, I'm like worried, right, that something's going to change or whatever. Yeah. How do you stop from flying off the roller coaster? Any roller coaster, you keep the bar down, dude. You keep it on your lap, right? Yeah. And so by keeping the bar down on your expectations as well, it gives you, and you have and the way that you keep the bar down is by having long-term views, long-term understanding. If you're like, hey, there's going to be highs and lows. There's going to be cyclical markets. There's going to be times where I'm money heavy and deal shy. There's other times where I'm deal heavy and money shy, right? And that's always going to flux, and you got to work with it as opposed to working against it. And maintaining a long-term vision is the key, right? And you're always going to make better decisions if you're like, what's the best decision for the long term? And it's going to set you up in a better position. And I'll tell you what, when this deal hit the fan, I sat down with one of my mentors. He's worth $500 million. I told him about this deal, and he said, hey, Tim, if I asked you, do you see yourself holding this property for the next 20 or 30 years and passing it down to your kids at some point in the future, would you say yes or no? I was like, absolutely not, right? It's like, I thought I was going to make $6 million in 3 to 5 years and put a couple extra dollars in my pocket. He goes, that's why you made a bad decision on this. That's why you partnered up with these guys who couldn't get the job done, because you made a short-term decision. And you always make bad decisions if you're basing your decisions on short-term circumstances. Don't make permanent decisions with temporary circumstances, based on temporary circumstances, right? And so if you are asking yourself, is this a property I want to hold? Now here's the thing. Let me give you a caveat, because there's a lot of properties I bought early on that were stepping stones to get me to where I am today, that I knew I wouldn't hold long term. I knew it was a C-class area, something else going on, but it gave me the position to get to 1,000 doors where now I can qualify for, like literally any property in the country I can go buy, because I have the net worth and the liquidity and the experience to do that. And so getting to a certain point, yes, there's certain things that you got to do and certain properties that you need to buy in order to then let it be a stepping stone. But once you're there, dude, you need to cut off doing bad deals, right? And really focus on what is your buy box, and have infinite clarity. I got sent a great deal in Houston, Texas yesterday from a friend. And he's like, dude, this is in Houston, and Great deal, great basis. They're selling it at like a 9% cap rate. It's 93% occupied. But it was built in the 70s vintage. The insurance is through the roof because it's in a flood zone. It's a C-class tenant base, right? It can never be anything better than that because it just hasn't grown. Like it's just not going to be. It's outside of where my team is located. I got to get new debt in place, like all these different things. And I'm like, why am I even spending time even reviewing it? Like it didn't even meet the first couple of buy boxes first couple of boxes in my buying checklist of like, dude, you need to have instant clarity right out of the way. And there's so much opportunity. There's so much shiny object. There's crypto. Like I feel frantic that I need to go buy crypto because it hit $100,000 yesterday. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, no, I sold all my crypto for a friggin' reason because I'm a real estate guy. And I let my friends go get rich in crypto. And when they take their crypto out, they bring it to me to invest in real estate deals. And if they go broke in crypto, it doesn't affect me. If they get rich in crypto, I get rich too in doing more real estate. So I win either way. I let the gamblers gamble and I refine, right? That's what John D. Rockefeller did when he started Standard Oil. He said, gamblers drill for oil, businessmen refine it. So he let other people go and drill for oil and either get rich or die trying. But everybody who found oil brought it to him and he got wealthy. His net worth and his company was 2% of the gross domestic product of the United States. He was 1/50th of the entire country's production. That's how big he was. Nobody will ever be that big ever again. In the future of the world, it just won't ever happen. So from a percentage of wealth wise, like this is the man. And that was a standard philosophy of his was let other people, essentially let the gold diggers go dig for gold. You sell them the picks, you sell them the axes, you sell them the rations and the food, and you will get straight wealthy if you can refine. And so I let other people sell Amazon stores. I let other people chase Forex. I let other people do crypto. I let other people ride the housing waves and all that kind of stuff. Dude, I just stay in my lane and I become an absolute expert at multifamily, and I'm known as the multifamily guy because of that. So whenever people want to invest in multifamily, they knock on my door.
I love it. And I think that it is difficult, especially when you're an entrepreneur, having that shiny object syndrome, right? Because you have all these ideas coming all the time, and then you see all these other great ideas, and you got this team and you're entrepreneurial, you want to make it happen. You got this spirit, and where the most money comes in is compounding on the experience that you already have. Like taking the experience you already have, letting that compound, just like everybody says, don't touch compounding from an investment side. If you put it in Charlie Munger, right? Like his rules, you don't touch the compounding. It's the same thing with your skills, your experience, etc. If you go and try to pivot and now become the crypto guy or do a whole new venture, although it when you're an entrepreneur, it sounds good and shiny, it's really important to be able to do it. And I love it. And it's funny, you mentioned, Rockefeller, and you mentioned selling the picks and shovels. Actually, Trump's grandfather, he followed the gold rush all the way to Alaska, but very similar, not to go after the gold, but to set up what was actually a brothel, but a hotel brothel, sell the food, sell the lodging to the miners who were there to go and mine gold, right? So very similarly, very entrepreneurial, same idea. You sell the stuff for the people who go out there, they're doing the oil, they're doing the gold, you sell the shovels or you sell the Standard Oil. Really cool idea. You said two things, Tim. You said that as the CEO, because we've got a lot of people who are either CEOs trying to improve their business or aspiring CEOs or real estate investors. You said the two big things that they need to focus on is finding deals and raising capital. Can you just touch base on when you learned how to find deals and raise capital, what that looked like, and any advice you would have for our listeners in that sense?
Yeah, man. I mean, there's a lot of different strategies, and being in real estate. So I got started in real estate I started investing in 08, 09, and dude, deals were everywhere. But there was no money anywhere. It was very different than today. Today, there's a lot of money out there. Deals are a lot harder to find. But I was able to then do a lot of creative financing. And a lot of those skills that I learned back then, I've actually reintroduced into the team and how we're structuring deals today. And so, first of all, let's talk about finding deals. I'll get into creative financing and stuff in a second. But sourcing deals, it's like wholesaling. Wholesaling to me is a skill set. It's not like the business that I want to build. But I did wholesale deals and I learned how to source off-market opportunities. I'm a big believer in like no cost, low cost ways of sourcing deals. Of like the two ways that I get the most deals and the most money is through social media, of doing stuff like this, being on a podcast, posting about me doing a deal, posting about a closing, posting about a lesson learned, always trying to pour into other people. If you have two things, create influence, right? It's called respect and inspiration. Respect and trust, right? Respect and trust are the two characteristics that give you influence in any certain situation. How do you develop respect and trust? Well, you develop respect by showing that you're an expert in your industry. So when you look at my posts on social media, I'm very strategic, not strategic, but I guess strategic.
Yeah, you're smart.
Intentional.
You're intentional. That's a great word, intentional.
I know what the hell I'm doing, dude. This isn't new for me. I've been around the block at a high level for a long time. And so I talk about all the different things that we have going on, and I talk at a high level, dude. I'll take complex ideas and simplify it, but I'm making sure that people realize that I know what I'm talking about, right? And so I get a lot of accolades by, people seeing my portfolio, people seeing my team and what I've done. So that's great. I built respect there. I get trust by sharing inspiration, by sharing with you that, dude, I went through a bloodbath in 2023 with this deal in Texas with these partners, right? By sharing with you that that's a Cinderella story, but I was able to make it out. And so no matter what kind of issues you might be facing, dude, no matter what, you'll come out clean on the other end, right? It's only money. If you lose money, you didn't lose anything, right? If you lost your health, you lost something. If you lose your reputation, you lose everything. So don't worry about money, dude. Money's easy to go and make it more of, but you feel confined, right? And by me sharing things like that with you, I'm pouring into you without expecting anything back. And I'm inspiring you to go out and do cool stuff and big stuff and think bigger and be more excited and more ambitious in your growth and make a bigger impact. Dude, that then leads to me inspiring you, which builds more trust. Now you trust me more often, right? And sharing, when I was completely broke and those kinds of things. So now you've got trust and respect. And the way that I do that is I share education and inspiration, right? That's essentially what I do. But you create a lot of influence, and that can be done for free with social media. It's free to have 5,000 friends on Facebook, right? It's free to go out and create a video of you walking around a property or interviewing your contractor or interviewing your title company or interviewing your CPA or interviewing your real estate attorney or anybody on your team you can interview and utilize their expertise through your marketing medium. And dude, me being on your podcast gives you credibility and me credibility, right? Even though I'm the one doing most of the talking, you're the medium in which people got the content they got the information. And so they respect you more and appreciate you more because you're the one who actually delivered it to them. And so, dude, if you don't have a podcast, if you're not active on social media, if you're not taking that very serious, not to consume social media, but to create content on social media, I don't think there's a better marketing tool in the world than social media, dude. I think it's unbelievable if it's used properly. So I get most of my deals, most of my money from social media. The other thing is email marketing. I think email marketing is it's been overlooked in so many different ways. It's relatively almost no cost. And you can build up an email list from cold marketing to warm marketing. And then, dude, we send out an email. We know we're going to get investors from it. We know we're going to get deal flow from it. We know people are going to, join a course or want to plug into a free event that we're hosting or whatever. That email marketing is unbelievable. It can be very targeted and really, really strong. I really don't. We run paid ads once in a while, but I really don't like it. I would say if there's two marketing mediums that you really want to learn, I'm going to add a third one. Social media, right? Your own network. 2 is email marketing. And 3 would be having the balls to pick up the phone and start banging out phone calls and just calling every single listing on LoopNet and calling every single commercial broker on Crexy and just reaching out and going out and just talking and knocking on doors. You know what happens when you knock on a door? The door of opportunity opens once in a while. Some of them stay closed, but a lot of times they start opening up. And if you're doing those 3 things that are all low and no cost ways of marketing, dude, that's stuff that other people just aren't doing. Everybody's trying to find the free deals, the easy deals by doing stuff that doesn't really pay dividends. And you can really stand out if you're out there knocking on doors and having these conversations.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think one thing that does happen a lot is you have all these ideas, you listen to this podcast, et cetera, but you just do a bunch of mental masturbating, right? Like you don't actually take any action. And it's the people who take action, so they go from the idea to the action, that really make a difference. And it's like you said, when you make those phone calls, you might get denied 9 out of 10 times, but then you'll get one bite, and that one bite might not produce anything for you for years. You have to be a go-giver. There's a great book called Go Giver. You can't take, but be a go-giver in what you're doing and the actions you're taking. And it's important. I mean, I had an example of it just happened just recently. We've got a really beautiful piece of land. We've been wanting to get into affordable. Every single time I bring it up, I want to get into affordable. And then I hit a roadblock, right? I hit a roadblock because if you have to go through the legislation, the applications, it's just crazy. It's a crazy situation. Well, finally, I'm like an entrepreneur. I'm like, well, we don't have to do it ourselves. You just find a partner. And what do I then bank on? I got clarity on, I needed an affordable partner. Sure, you can Google, but in every conversation I started having with people, I would say, if I was talking to a banker, I'd say, hey, do you know any really good affordable developers around, and other developers? Do you know any good affordable developers? And slowly but surely, you talk to a couple, you keep putting it out there in the universe. And from probably about 2 weeks, I was doing that with different conversations. And then boom, we finally get one, we talk to them, and we're from putting that out there and asking for what I wanted to where we're at today and getting ready to put a deal together on it, right? That only came from, like you said, getting the clarity, putting it out there, asking, whether that's on social media, whether that's in your conversations. You have to put action. That's what kickstarts the manifestation, right? So really important to do that. And I think those are two key things. So you get a lot of your flow from social media. I like those tips on marketing. So social media, posting, the email marketing. And then what was the third one again you said?
Picking up the phone.
Picking up the phone, cold calling. So cold calling was big. Now, what about that's where you're getting some leads in. Are you working like on your first deal? Did you buy that all yourself? Did you raise capital? What did that look like? Because a lot of people that listen are still in that like first or second deal range. What did that look like for you, Tim?
Yeah, man. So my first deal I ever bought was on a credit card. My own credit card. Yeah. And I got my credit card limit increased, got some balance transfer checks, and bought the shittiest house on the MLS and flipped it with literally my own hands and painting it and paying my buddies a pizza and beer and then selling it off, made a check. So that was my first one. And then I started just going out there and trying to get creative on things. Like this was when short sales were a big deal, foreclosures were a big deal. People would literally give you the deed to their $500,000 house and walk away. Dude, they'd sign over a deed, a quick claim deed, give it to you. But the mortgage on it was $700,000, or, you could use any interval.
Pace Morby before Sub 2 got so.
Yes. Yeah. Right. He's kind of like commercialized it, but that was like a big deal, dude. People would just hand over, you do loan modifications, you do a short sale type of a structure. And then if you could get a loan modification, get the balance reduced, it saves the seller from foreclosure. You get to keep the loan in place, and then you can keep renting the house or whatever. And so I tried to do, there was no money out of pocket really for stuff like that. It was just work. And I showed up to the real estate investors associations, and I started telling my buddies that I was buying houses. And I had people write me these small checks, 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand was a huge check for me back then. And I was able to go out and find the dumpiest houses in town and buy these dumpy houses, fix them all up, and make a couple of bucks. And by doing that over and over and over again, I got to meet more people who could source deals for me. And I got to cycle investor money more, where they gave me more confidence to give me more cash, and then meet more people just in my interactions and talking about doing deals that opened me up for new opportunities. And so, from a raising money standpoint, that is a key thing too. And by the way, if you have a social media network, I couldn't tell you how many people, I had a guy reach out to me and he goes, "Hey, I got about $500,000, just sold my company. I want to deploy it with you." I said, "Dude, we're not even friends on Facebook," right? It was in my spam list. I was like, "I don't even know who you are. Why would you ever give me $500,000? We've never met." He goes, "Dude, I've been following you for many years. I know you know what you're talking about. I love that you're a family man. Our kids are around the same age. And dude, I trust you, right? I could tell you're the real deal. I got some cash and I'd love to deploy it with you." That doesn't happen unless you're consistent, unless you're around for a long time and consistently showing your values, right? Of what you stand for and that you know what the hell you're doing. And so social media, great way to raise money. I just sent out an email to our email database that was a depreciation year end. If you need depreciation before the end of this year, you can invest in one of my deals and I'll allocate depreciation to you because I don't need it. I have too much depreciation. I have one deal specifically. I got $3 million of depreciation from last year that I still haven't used. And another, I'll get another about
carryover.
Carryover. I have another like 1.6 million from this year and I don't need it, but I need to raise money on this thing. So I thought, hey, it's going to be a little bit easier for me to raise capital. If I just give maybe I'll pay a little bit lower of a preferred return. Instead of 10%, I'll pay 8%. And then I'll give them $100K of depreciation for every $100K that they come and invest. And so it allowed me to then go through the process. There's a dog.
There it is. That's our cue. That's our cue. The dog.
Come here. And so it allowed you. So it allowed me to go through the process and raise $1.6 million in a single email, right? That would have taken me a lot more time and a lot more effort if I didn't have an email database. Enough.
Tim, I love it. I love it. I know that's our cue. I appreciate you making 45 minutes for us. I know how big of a family you man are. I know how big of a family man you are. And so let you get to your family. For anyone that wants to connect with you, how do they get a hold of you, Tim?
Yeah, man. So, social media, right? I'm always putting out free content on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So just look me up at Tim Bratz, or Legacy Wealth is our YouTube channel. But yeah, just connect with me there, right? And if you got certain questions or things that we didn't hit on that you think I might be able to help with, just shoot me a DM. I answer all my DMs, and even if I can't help you, I can at least point you in the right direction or connect you with somebody who might be able to. So, dude, I appreciate you having me, man. This was a great conversation. I'd love to hop back on because I think that we can get deep into a lot more stuff, man. But you asked a lot of great questions, and you're making a big impact on a lot of people's lives, Dirk. So I really appreciate you, bud.
Appreciate that, Tim. Yeah, we'll do it again for sure. Probably a great time as well. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes, guys. Go follow Tim. He's doing a ton of great stuff. Thanks for your time and your nuggets. And with that, guys, we'll see you on the next one.